The Dallas Cowboys are back and they're winning games again. We'll break down their week 1 performance next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Welcome back. On today's show, we are reviewing the Cowboys' first preseason game of the year. We're going to talk about some players who stood out to us, a couple that need to have better performances as we go. But Landon, I just want your thoughts at the top. What did you think about the preseason performance as a whole from this Cowboy team and this coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, for being a first week preseason game, it was actually pretty clean. I mean, there definitely were some penalties that we need to clean up, and we'll talk about some of that at a certain point. But I thought that, at least on the Cowboys side, you had 2 quarterbacks that played. I thought both of them moved the ball pretty well. The offense looked efficient overall. The running game was it developed as the game was going. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you gave up an early touchdown drive but I mean, honestly, even that was buoyed by 2 questionable penalties that were called. And then outside of that, you didn't give up any other points, and you basically tackled really well, and you looked generally competent. So I think just kind of from a 10,000 foot view, those 2 sides of the ball look good. And honestly, there's very little about the offense or the defense that is going to translate to week 1. We saw a little bit of Caleb Downs, and we'll talk about it. We'll saw a little bit of Revel, same there. But the one thing that does kind of translate a little bit, the one area, the side of the field, if you will, that really does translate is special teams. And to me, that's where I have some concerns, kind of, if we're looking at a 10,000 foot view, because I like our kicker, I like our punter, but our coverage and return teams, they certainly leave a lot to be desired.
Yeah, and nobody takes the preseason less seriously than the Cowboys. I think they had 30-something players that didn't play. This is how unserious the Cowboys are about the preseason. Their wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4 didn't even dress. Most teams, I watched the Jets over the weekend, and they had Garrett Wilson play 2 full drives. The Cowboys weren't even risking their 4th receiver. That's how little they care about it. So just in general, we should not overreact to anything we see in the preseason. We're going to talk about some guys that impressed us, but just keep that in mind. I will say one thing. I agree with you about it was a fairly clean preseason games in terms of not a bunch of drops or blown assignments or anything like that. If there's one concern I had, it's that they looked significantly slower, in the first quarter, than Seattle. And maybe it was just the Seahawks feeding off the energy of the crowd. Maybe it's because Seattle had some better players in to start the game, but there was a noticeable lack of speed in the first 15 minutes of real time of this game. And then again, I think the Cowboys settled down. But that was one of the big takeaways that I had.
I think that's honestly is experience, because what you saw out there was that first group that was out with Seattle. I mean, it was led by Drew Lock, for God's sakes. Jake Bobo was out there. So yeah, these guys have played football in the NFL before, and a lot of football, to be honest. So I think part of that kind of speed is actually just decisiveness and the rookies not understanding the step up in speed. So it's an interesting note, to be sure. I definitely felt like there were different points, especially on defense, and especially up front, it felt where guys were hesitating or they weren't exactly sure what was happening to them. They weren't reading or had the awareness to kind of know the blocking that's being done upon them, and so they weren't reacting the same way. So I certainly noticed some of that for sure.
All right, we're going to talk about the rookies here in a little bit, but I want to just throw a couple different players at you, and you tell me what you thought of these guys. And I want to start with Joe Milton, because I think for me, Landon, Milton made a couple nice throws, but there wasn't any big splash plays that he made. It wasn't like he was running all over the field with his legs or anything like that. But he just seems so much more decisive and accurate than we saw at any point in the preseason last year. I thought he just had a solid B type of game.
And that's why I think it's been his most impressive performance that I've seen
Yes.
from him so far, because literally making the big plays and running for big, huge gains, throwing the ball down the field. I've seen Joe Milton do a ton of that stuff. What I've failed to see is him put together an entire performance where it felt like he had command over the football the entirety of the game, where he was throwing the ball where it felt like it should be going. Like, there were definitely some times when there was either some miscommunication or he missed the throw. But I think that there's a difference between missing.
He didn't have any bad plays. I think
exactly.
they had, plays that didn't result in any gain, but there was no, you missed the receiver by 7 yards, or you took an unnecessary sack, or you had a bad read. Like, that's why I was so impressed with his performance.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I tweeted throughout the game. It's like, and I think it was after he had the kind of very good first or second drive. I just wanted to see him continue that throughout the game. I just wanted him to see him continually. I don't need to see him score touchdowns. I don't need to score him to put a bunch of points on the board. I need him to kind of consistently guide this team and not be the reason that they're getting off the field on third downs, because he missed so badly that there wasn't even a contested catch, So, and we saw that. And I think that's an excellent first step for a guy who I was really starting to wonder, like, if he was going to be able to show that level of consistency to kind of give us that level of confidence.
You want to argue about a player for 3 minutes before we talk about the rookies?
Let's do it.
Jaydon Blue. I know we have differing thoughts on his performance on Saturday night. I want you to go first. What did you see?
Oh, I don't know that we do. Honestly,
maybe we might be the same here. All right, go ahead.
I think. Look, I mean, here's what this preseason game was about: like, running backs being able to see these running backs finally run the football when they are being taken to the ground. And so this is our first opportunity to see exactly how they do breaking these tackles, really, right? Because in these training camp practices, they're not being tackled, and they can run through tackles or whatever. But I have to say, like, it didn't look very much better than it did last year with Jaydon Blue as far as that specifically goes. Like, he didn't seem to have the ability to kind of break tackles, even when he's picked up a little bit of speed, which is a little discouraging. And then I think the other thing that was probably even more discouraging is that it just felt like his vision, especially in the open field when he didn't have a lot of guys in front of him, where, he had opportunities where he had the speed, he had the ball. Why wasn't he breaking this? Like that one screen where
That's exactly what I was thinking.
He basically cut it back up on ran up the offensive lineman's back instead of cutting it outside, where he probably would have gotten at least 25 yards or a 20-yard run. So I thought that, it was even made more stark how bad the performance was. And listen, I'm going to throw in Maffa here too, because I don't think
Maffa played well either.
I don't think he had a great performance,
No.
and especially, again, when you compare to what we saw from Malik Davis and from Abinaconda. Like, both of those guys ended up averaging over 5 yards a carry, and I think you saw that Blue and Maffa ended up somewhere below 4, maybe I think below 3 actually. So I think it's not always indicative of performance, but it certainly was there with those guys.
And I understand with Blue, like, the blocking was not good. Totally understand.
That was true. Yeah.
My issue is, if you always have to have good blocking to even have halfway decent runs, like Bill Parcells used to talk about the value of a 2-yard run. And this is something that I just don't think Jaydon Blue has figured out. It's like, okay, you get hit at, after or at the line of scrimmage, find a way to drive with your legs and power through to get a yard or a yard and a half, right? And there's just no power to Jaydon Blue's game. And I understand that he is not a powerful runner, but I also don't think he's so dynamic as a receiver that he can get away with having no power in the run game. And it leaves you with a specialist back who is just not that special.
Like, if he hits the hole, he's got some momentum. Like, the pocket will kind of lean forward with him. But the problem is where he's going to be making his money is in the open field. And if you don't have, like, exceptional vision to avoid all those blocks and kind of figure out the slalom that you need to do to get away from hands that are reaching for you, then you got to be able to break one or two of these arm tackles to get your speed up to kind of destroy angles. And he's just not even doing that. And it'd be one thing if it was just inconsistent, but I mean, it's rare. Like, I don't even know that I've seen him break an arm tackle out in the open in the NFL, and that's just a real problem.
All right, let's talk about the Cowboys rookies from Saturday night because there were a few impressive performances. We'll get to them next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. There are more live events than ever that you want to go see. I know for me, like I'm already making my schedule for the NFL season. I cannot wait. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to attend. It's actually getting the tickets. Between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel way harder than it needs to. And that's why so many fans are turning to Game Time. The app is built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive saving opportunities to help you get to the events that you want to get to without the usual hassle. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem promo code Locked On for $20 off, and download the Game Time app today. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club, where you can get ad-free episodes of the Locked On Cowboys podcast, plus exclusive Discord server access and a newsletter that shows up to your emails every single morning. Just go to lockedoncowboys.supercast.com to join the club. All right, Landon, we're going to go through some of the Cowboys rookies and talk about their performances, but we have to start with Camden Brown, who we were really excited about going into this game because he had such an awesome week of practice. Goes out there, makes 3 big receptions, including 2 amazing touchdown grabs. And I don't know how you keep him off the 53-man roster now.
Yeah, really tough, honestly, at this point. And I think, especially in light of some of the other performances that we got from some of the other wide receivers, and we can talk about a little bit later, it feels like he's really solidified his spot, in that. And I wouldn't be shocked to start seeing him in an uptick of special teams, just to kind of see how he can do there, just to try to find a way to get him onto this roster. But
by the way, really quickly, you mentioned the other receivers. I actually thought Jonathan Mingo had one of his better days.
He did. Yeah.
Made a couple of really tough catches, made a play on special teams. Like Camden Brown was a star, but Jonathan Mingo had a good day. I don't know if it's enough to make the roster, but he just had a good day overall.
No, yeah, and actually the guys that I was referring to is guys like Trayshawn Holden and Anthony Smith and
Marcus Scantling.
Yeah, I mean, man, again, all 3 of those guys didn't have the best night. I mean, especially Holden had a fumble, but Scantling, I mean, just didn't look great. So yeah, I mean, again, I felt like there was a separation there in that kind of mid to lower tier, competition for wide receivers 5 and 6. I think we should call it.
Is Camden Brown on the roster week 1?
I think yes. I do think probably week 1, right? Maybe with some roster moves to happen after that. But yeah, I do think that he's shown enough that you feel like maybe you do protect him.
All right, let's talk about the Cowboys' first round pick, Caleb Downs, who only played, I believe, 7 snaps in this game, 6 at safety, 1 as a nickel defender. Again, can't take too much away from it, but I thought he looked good nonetheless.
Yeah, he's moving around out there. Definitely looked efficient. Not much to talk about on 6 snaps. Didn't see a lot of action, honestly.
All right, now Malachi Lawrence did play 17 snaps, and we got to see him basically most of the first half. A little up and down for Malachi Lawrence. I thought you can see the athleticism, and I thought he did a really good job on one of the plays kind of containing Jalen Milroe on a play action.
Really nice.
Yeah, and now he actually could have been a little bit more aggressive. There was a guy behind him, but I think for the most part, he did a good job of not allowing a big play. But you can see he's still pretty raw.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, when I was referring to earlier, kind of some of the younger guys getting, not fooled, but just kind of not aware of exactly what was being done to them. I think that was kind of Lawrence. There was 2 or 3 different opportunities he had where he knifed inside and it felt like the tackle baited him to go inside because the play was a screen coming to the outside, or it was Milrow, and they were trying to get him like almost like Aaron Rodgers, right, where they let the rusher come inside so that they can get the break the pocket, contained to kind of change the angles on things. So it just felt like there were times where you saw the athleticism, even with the continued. I mean, he still has that kind of false step. It certainly feels like it's gotten a little bit better, but it's still there. But even with that, you could see the athleticism, you could see the burst, and even like with the strength and his physicality, there were times when he was able to maintain an edge when he was reading the play correctly. He was able to collapse down and make a tackle. So some good stuff from him for sure, but it was definitely a mixed bag.
There was another play I'm remembering off the top of my head where the Seahawks pulled the tight end and Lawrence kind of crashed down, blew up the tight end, and really closed the gap. No, he didn't. I don't think he made the tackle on that play.
I think he slipped away from him. Yeah, but he
limited the run to like a 1 yard gain or whatever. And it's like that's how you're going to get on the field early. Is if you can be a good run defender and show that you're willing to go in there and just blow stuff up. I think that's how he can be productive.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was a nice showing, and you need that kind of stuff from him in the run game for sure.
Drew Shelton.
He really struggled, I mean, it just didn't look great, especially early on when it felt like some of the better players were in. He gave up a couple pressures. It felt like he was getting pushed around at times in the run game, unable to kind of maintain his blocks, and his guy was slipping off and making tackles. It just felt like it was a lot for him early on.
It seemed like he was overwhelmed in the first half,
especially if this is kind of what we talked about him as a prospect, like the power stuff is where he struggles, especially the kind of speed to power stuff. He just doesn't have any sand to kind of stop, drop his weight and prevent bull rushes or guys coming down the middle or counters off of that. And again, he's not able to stick on blocks, and usually that has to do with your core strength. And so I just don't think he's powerful enough quite where he needs to be yet.
Yeah. If the idea is that he's going to compete for the swing tackle job, like early in the year, I really hope Terrence Steele and Tyler Guyton never, ever get hurt ever.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, absolutely.
A couple other players I just wanted to ask you about. These are non-rookies, but James Houston.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he looked like he didn't belong in a good way, right?
He should not have been out there playing in the second quarter. Like, he's too good for that.
And I think his play showed you that much, right? He had a sack, a tackle for loss. There was another play where it was a screen and he read it perfectly, and there were like 3 blockers out there, and he sidestepped them all and made the tackle for no gain. So yeah, just a guy who looked like he didn't belong out there in a good way.
I got a question for you. Week 1, is he your third best edge rusher on the roster?
I think he's probably your third best pass rusher, right? Like so I think he makes the roster simply because of that. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, he's been good against the run too. So it's hard to say. I certainly think he's had no problems taking to this defense, and he's honestly a little bit like Malik Davis, right? Where it's just like, what does he got to do?
I know every time he's out there, he plays well.
Yeah, so I think it's probably time to at least give him some opportunities, because I mean, every single time you do it, it feels like you get some good. Look, he's going to get pushed around a little bit. He's undersized,
he's small, yeah.
But this defense does a good job of kind of protecting that. So I think he should be given more opportunities in this defense.
Another player that I wanted to ask you about, Julius Wood.
Fantastic game, man. Just great on defense, solid, especially in the red zone. That one series, made a really solid tackle coming downhill. Was great in special teams. Had a really great tackle. One of the rare bright spots on special teams. Yeah, I thought that he, I mean, of all the guys who actually had an important game in this first preseason game, I thought his may have been the most important, simply because of what was on the line for him and how well he did.
I just don't know how you cut him in favor of like Marquise Bell or even PJ Locke. Like, I know PJ Locke has played in a lot of big games, but every time Julius Wood is on the field, it seems like he finds a way to make a play or two.
Yeah, I mean, just like again, the depth here is really going to have the Cowboys spinning on how to kind of solve that when it comes to cut
All
down
right.
time. Sorry.
Let's talk about some players who failed to impress us, including Marist Liufau. We'll get to him next. This episode is brought to you by Square. Behind so many of the local businesses that people visit every day is Square, a platform designed to help businesses sell, manage, and grow. Whether it's a neighborhood coffee shop, a packed sports bar on game day, or your favorite restaurant, Square brings payments, banking, and more together in one connected system. It helps business owners spend less time managing technology and more time focusing on their customers. I know for me, there's this coffee shop that I go to almost every single day where I walk in, there's usually 5 or 6 people, in line, but it never feels slow. I'm in and out in minutes. I get my coffee right away. I get my receipt mailed right to my email, and I can use rewards, and I'm earning them every single time I buy a coffee. It just feels smooth every single time. And yes, as you can tell, they've got Square running the business behind the scenes. If you're starting a business or running one that just deserves better tools, Square helps you sell, manage, and grow without slowing down. Right now, you can get up to $200 off Square hardware at square.com/go/LockedOnNFL. That's square.com/go/LockedOnNFL. Run your business smarter with Square and get started today. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Landon, I want to run through a couple players that I think need to impress us in the next 2 games. And I want to start with Marist Liufau. Like, he made a couple plays on the edge, but he still gives you almost nothing as a pass rusher. And I know it's going to take time, but I don't know if the Cowboys have time here.
Yeah, I mean, I think mostly the guys who disappointed, and Marist obviously fits this bill, are guys where, they have some NFL experience already, and they're playing in a preseason, first week preseason game. And, despite the competition drop, that they're still not performing very well. Like, that's problematic. And I think you saw that from Marist Liufau, where he was doing some positive things, a lot of the positive things that you see him do at certain points in camp and everything. But the main definition for the job that he's playing is pass rush. And he's just not good at that yet. Like, and I get it. Like you said,
I don't know when he will be either.
That's the problem, is that it's probably not going to be this off season or this season. So, like, if that's the case, like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't know if you have enough to kind of keep him and develop him and hope that, you can cobble together a role for him in special teams and just drop coverage and playing the run.
2 more players that I wanted to mention. Nate Thomas, who went into training camp competing for the left tackle job with Tyler Guyton. He had a penalty. I did not think he was particularly good as a run blocker. I thought he was maybe a little bit better as a pass blocker, but not by much. It was a rough outing for him.
Yeah, I think he improved as the game went on, but very bad early on, and the false start was kind of just endemic, and he had another one that really, frankly, should have been called later in the game as well. So yeah, just I mean, I think the issue has been probably concentration with him, and I think that's kind of what we're hinting at, and unfortunately, this kind of spoke to that a little bit.
Luke Schoonmaker. Now, Schoonmaker only played 8 snaps. I think it's just a combination of, like, okay, you're going into year 4, Schoonmaker. Like, you should be the best player on the field.
Exactly.
And he wasn't. And honestly, like, Michael Trigg is not a good blocker. And I didn't think there was a big difference in the blocking ability between the two.
I mean, there wasn't a big difference in the results, that's for sure. It felt like the first 3 plays I saw Schooney in the game, he fell down on all 3, and it's just like
he's big and fast, but he's just not athletic. And there's a big difference between being big and fast and athletic.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between him and Brevin Spanford could not be bigger. So yeah, disappointing, honestly.
It's notable that Brevin Spanford didn't even suit up for this game. Like, you've got this undrafted free agent tight end who is now pretty clearly taking the tight end 2 job, and you've got a former second-round pick out there playing with, I don't want to call them scrubs because that's not nice, but you know what I mean.
Again, guys who have played in the NFL that have done things in the NFL, they should be coming into this kind of game with the players that they're playing. Not all of them are scrubs, some of them can play, but the fact is that it's a mix and match enough that the players that are supposed to be solid NFL players or role playing backups, they should be standing out here. James Houston stood out, right?
Yes.
Like that's how it should look. That we didn't see that from Schooney. We didn't see that from Liufau. And I'll throw out Robinson, right? I mean, Curtis Robinson had another night where, I felt like as the game went on, it was a little bit better. But again, like as the game went on, the talent wasn't as good. Yeah. And he struggled both on defense and on special teams where he gave up he wasn't sticky on a block on a return team, and there was a huge tackle for I think on the first kickoff return after the touchdown. So just problematic stuff like for guys that are supposed to be playing roles on this team at some point.
You got 20 seconds to defend Kalen Carson's honor. Then we're going.
I listen. I think ultimately the high level is correct. He was too grabby throughout, and I think that's what's reflected by the penalties. I think the individual penalties that were called specifically were ridiculous. But it wasn't like he wasn't committing holding at other points.
That's the thing. It's like, I mean, he got called for the right amount of penalties, just maybe at the wrong time.
Just not at the right time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
notable because the Cowboys, I think, are looking for somebody to grab that cornerback 4 job. Well, I'm wrong.
Too much grabbing.
And I don't think Kalen Carson took it. All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting podcast. With training camps here and moves being made across the NFL, hosts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. We will see you right back here tomorrow.